How's it going, guys? Shizukatz here once again on the Trusted Collectibles channel. Today bringing you a deck profile for our meta build for the recently released Quintessential Quintuplets. Recently, we showed you guys a bunch of waifu builds for the quintuplets, and among those decks are plenty of quality cards that you can choose to include in a meta build. For the build that we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be using Goldbar and Choice Climaxes, using the level 1 Yotsuba combo from the Quintessential Set, and the RR Plus Ichika Lv3 from the booster. Let's start the deck profile by taking a closer look at each of these combos. The level 1 Yotsuba is a 4500 base power character who gains an additional 1k during your turn. On attack, Climax Combo with Goldbar, you mill 2 and add up the levels of the milled cards, then salvage a character whose level is equal or lower than that sum. This is a combo that's functionally the same as Shizu from Tensura, which we have also featured on our channel multiple times in our gameplay videos. The combo is very easy to use. You attack, mill 2, and you get a card. It's also easy to loop for multiple back-to-back combo turns, since you can use the ability to salvage more copies of herself, and you also have easier access to the Climax since it's a gold bar. Since the Climax combo's range of salvaging is based on what levels you mill, I've decided to include a relatively high number of level 3s, 11 to be exact, so that our options for salvaging are as wide as possible. The high number of level 3s also plays into our second Climax trigger, the Choice Climax, which can only target cards with soul triggers to add to hand or stock. Our level 3 combo is Ichika's Choice combo. On play, she can look at up to 3 cards from the top of the deck to add 1 to hand and send the rest to waiting room. When you play her Climax by paying 1 stock and discarding a Quints character, she gains an ability until the end of the turn that says if her damage is cancelled, you can burn 2 twice. This is a powerful finisher, especially in high numbers, where your opponent will eventually have to cancel something in order to avoid dying, which will proc the cancel burns. Additionally, if you can take control of the board at level 2 using early play healers, you can direct attack with the Ichika combo at level 3, threatening even more soul damage than usual. A direct attack with the combo active means your opponent is either eating the 4 from soul damage, or they're going to be taking 2 burn 2s. Now let's take a look at the deck list overall. We're running 3 colors in this deck, green and yellow for our 2 main colors, with a bit of red as well in the upper levels. Soul trigger count is at 15, a relatively safe number of triggers to accommodate our choice climaxes. Starting at level 0, we have our ideal turn 1 play, the Nino Center Runner. As the name of the profile would imply, she has the ability to run to the front row center slot at the start of the opponent's attack phase. She also becomes a very strong 3500 power if you have another Quints character on the board, making her even harder to deal with. If your opponent wants to beat her, they're going to have to field 2 characters that can deal with her 3500 power, one in the middle and one on the side. Her role is to be played in the first turn or 2 and survive so that we can retain card advantage for no cost whatsoever, and in order to see her in our opening hand as consistently as possible, we're running a full 4 copies. Speaking of retaining card advantage for no cost, our next level 0 is the Ichika Clean Cut from the Quintessential Set. During your turn, she gets 1k power, bringing her up to a respectable 3k on offense, and of course, she has the all-important Clean Cut effect. This effect not only lets us save a card to use for later, essentially netting us a +1, but also allows us to attack with things that we normally wouldn't want to attack with, like Brainstorms, since Ichika will allow us to move them to safety when she reverses her opponent and uses her Clean Cut ability. Moving along in our 0 line, we have 3 copies of the Itsuki Fukajiro. This card is mainly used for its ability to mill with the Fukajiro effect and filter our hand for no stock cost. Contrasting with our Yotsuba level 1 combo, which must mill exactly 2 cards, this Itsuki gives us a bit of flexibility on how much we go through our deck. Additionally, she's also a level 0 reverser, which gives us the option to use her for trading with opposing level 0s if we so desire. Remember, the reverser ability is optional, so if you want your opponent to keep a character so that you can beat it with the Ichika Clean Cut and use her Clean Cut ability, that is a completely valid play. The level 0 reverser ability also has some neat synergy with another Itsuki card that we'll talk about in just a moment. Starting off our backline utility, we have 3 Yotsuba Brainstorms. She is a Rest Self Search Brainstorm and has the secondary ability to pay 1 and discard a Climax, choose a card from Clock, add it to hand, clock the top card of our deck, and choose one of our characters to gain 500 power until the end of the turn. This is a neat extra way to filter out any unneeded climaxes from our hand. The main reason I chose this Yotsuba Brainstorm over Nino Brainstorm is actually because of the color. Green is a little bit tight in this deck, and seeing as we need green early in the game at level 1, I felt playing Yotsuba over Nino was appropriate here. For our other back row slot, we have one of my personal favorite cards in this deck, this level 0 Itsuki. She can rest herself to choose one of our characters, give it 500 power boost, and the ability where, if the targeted character is able to reverse its battle opponent this turn, we can force our opponent to heal 1 and then shoot their reversed character to clock. This is extremely useful for many different reasons. You can prevent the opponent from using an ability that activates on death, such as our own level 0 Itsuki. You can prevent them from using an ability whose cost involves sending itself to memory, and you can also use it to permanently remove an opponent's character from the board that has Encore. Also, a cheeky combo that you can sometimes go for is putting this ability on the level 0 Reverser Itsuki, since her ability can guarantee that she gets a reverse on the battle opponent, even if the opposing character is higher power. This Itsuki's second effect is a pay 2 rest self salvage, which balances out with the search offered by the Yotsuba Brainstorm. Lastly, this Itsuki is green, which again helps meet our green requirement for level 1 if needed. To round out our level 0 line, we have some 1-of utility slots. Ichika is a drop searcher who gains continuous +1 soul if she's in the center slot, a profile you might be familiar with from Bang Dreams Kokoro. Itsuki is a drop salvager who can also mill 1 on attack, and if the milled card is a climax, you draw 1 and discard 1. Yotsuba is a ditch climax salvage who also mills 2 on play, and if a climax is milled, she gets +2 soul for the turn. A nice utility piece that also offers some free mill if needed. And lastly, we have the Nino Climax Swapper, who also lets you look at the top card of your deck and either leave it on top or send it to the waiting room. Our level 1 line consists of 9 cards. Our earlier mentioned 4 copies of Yotsuba combo, 4 copies of this double R Yotsuba, and 1 copy of the Yotsuba Anti-Change Bomb. First, let's take a look at the double R Yotsuba. She has 6500 power during our turn as long as we have 2 or more other Quints characters, making her a great target for the level 0 Itsuki, as higher power characters are great for leveraging the clock kick ability. Additionally, when one of our other Quints characters is attacked, you can pay 1 and have the Yotsuba sack herself to bounce the character being attacked back to our hand. This is a great way to recycle important cards that we want to continue using, such as the level 1 Yotsuba combo, but it's also a strong way to avoid on-reverse abilities. There are 2 main ways that you could use this Yotsuba level 1. If you want to use her for value, put her in the front row so that she can serve as an attacker and then use her ability on the defense to get a +1 in card advantage. If you want to use Yotsuba defensively to avoid reverses, you will want to put her in the back row. It forfeits the value that you would get from putting her in the front, but it's well worth it if you're avoiding a powerful on-reverse ability. And lastly, in our level 1 line is the 1-of Anti-Change Stock Bomb Yotsuba. This is just an all-around useful profile to have in your back pocket in case you need to remove a particularly nasty early play. Additionally, because it has a soul trigger, it can be grabbed off a choice climax if needed. For our level 2s, we're only running 3 cards, as our mid-game is mostly going to consist of early playing level 3s. I chose to run a level assist Itsuki from Quintessential Set, in addition to being a level assist. On play, reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a level 1 or lower card, including climaxes, it goes to stock, making this card come into play for free if you hit the top check. The other 2 level 2s in our build are counters, 1 copy of the Itsuki Anti-Change Stat counter, and 1 copy of the Yotsuba Memory Kit counter. You can also consider running some of the other anti-change counters available in the set, as the SAT component might not be as necessary because we run the level 1 Yotsuba. But I decided to run this counter profile anyway. The choice climax gives us access to the counter, whereas it would not give us access to the Yotsuba, so it's a nice option to have in my opinion. For our level 3s, we start with 4 copies of the Ichika Early Play Healer. She can be early played if we have 2 or less climaxes in waiting room, on play discard 1 heal to stock, and she continuously gains 500 power for each of our other Quints characters. This is a powerful card to be putting on the board at level 2, and I typically try to aim to put at least 2 copies on the board each game. Our endgame finisher doesn't heal at all, so I want to play multiple healers at level 2 to create a damage lead and then transition into our deadly finisher at level 3. As mentioned earlier in the profile, Ichika choice combo is potentially deadlier if she's allowed to direct and gain extra soul, so holding onto control of the board with these early plays at level 2, potentially backed up by the Itsuki support, can pay off nicely. However, Ichika isn't the only early play I chose to run. I also run 2 Itsukis, which can be early played if you have 4 or more Quints characters on stage. On play, top check X and add 1 to hand, where X is the number of your Quints characters, then send the rest to waiting room. When early playing Itsuki, it'll basically always be a top check 5, since you need 4 characters already on board to early play her in the first place. Ichika's on-play heal to stock does require hand, so the Itsuki early play can be played alongside her to help recoup some of the hand cost while simultaneously digging for potential endgame pieces. Her presence on the board alongside multiple Ichikas can also result in having full control of the board if your opponent cannot defeat any of these lanes. As far as Itsuki's power line goes, she gets an additional 1500 power if all of your characters are Quints, which means that she gets to go to 10,000 base power for free. Additionally, she also gains 1000 power during our turn to go to 11k offense, a very respectable power line. Finally, for our actual level 3 plays, we have the Ichika Climax Combo, which we went over earlier, and one copy of the level 3 Itsuki from Quintessential Set. On play, you can salvage a Quints character, and on attack, by discarding 2 cards, you can deal 1 damage. This is a nice card to have going into the late game as it offers flexibility via its on-play salvage, and an additional instance of damage when going for lethal never hurts either, if you weren't able to go for maximum combo turn and needed a third character to fill in the last attacking spot. Now let's take a look at our game plan, starting with our colors. Our color priority is green first for our level 1 line, then yellow for our Ichika early plays at level 2, and finally red. As always, if you get hit past 7 damage on a level up, remember to check what color the overflowed damage is so that you can level colors accordingly. For Mulligan, discard cards with soul triggers so that you have potential targets for choice climaxes if we were to trigger any over the first couple turns. We're looking to prioritize Nino Center Runner and Ichika Clean Cut as our main level 0 profiles, as well as holding on to level 1 Yotsuba combos to prepare for level 1. We do want to play the level 0 game fairly aggressively, using our Ichika Clean Cut as a way to circumvent attacking 3 times earlier. This will allow us to simultaneously push for more damage, and give us more chances to trigger our Goldbar Climax to get it into our hand to use at level 1. If you end up with multiple copies of the Goldbar Climax in hand, consider holding them for back-to-back turns of Yotsuba combos. At level 1, we want to be slamming as many level 1 Yotsuba combos as we can reasonably get, filling in any holes with the other level 1 Yotsuba so that we can potentially go for value plays by bouncing our level 1 combo back to hand to use again on future turns. The cards you salvage off the Yotsuba combo should be based on where you expect to end up damage-wise on your next turn, your current deck state, and whether or not you have another Goldbar Climax in hand. If you don't expect to go to level 2, still have a decent amount of deck left, and have more gold bars in hand, go ahead and pick up more copies of the Yotsuba combo to use on the next turn. If you do expect to get hit level 2, or you're nearing refresh, or you're out of bars to slam, consider trying to pick up Ichika early plays instead so that you can transition into your mid to late game. At level 2, you mainly want to be putting Ichika early plays onto the board, with the occasional Itsuki early play as well. Just like in the Ichika waifu deck we recently looked at, you want to establish how much stock you're going to be aiming for in the late game. 2 Ichika combos requires 6 stock, while triple Ichika requires 9. You can also try going for in-between endgame plans with the Itsuki burner, such as 1 Ichika plus Itsuki, which requires only 5 stock, or double Ichika plus Itsuki, which requires 8. One card that we didn't have access to at the time of recording is this level 1 PR, which is the promo you get for entering local shop tournaments in November. Despite being red, it can be played without meeting color requirements, means that we can stick to our color plan of green, yellow, red. It can be rested to give a character plus 1000 power until the end of the opponent's turn, and can sack itself plus 1 discard from hand to salvage any character from our waiting room. It's a 2-for-1 in terms of card value, but we also don't have to spend any stock in the process. If you want to try out this card in your deck, I would recommend taking out the 1 copy of the Itsuki drop salvage and 1 copy of the Yotsuba RR for 2 copies of this. Lastly, let's talk about some cards from the set that I chose not to run. The first one I want to address is the level 0 Itsuki. It's a double filter, and it's even green, which I brought up earlier in the profile as being a plus for the Yotsuba Brainstorm and Itsuki back row. The main reason I chose not to run this card in the build is because I prioritized utility cards that had targeted search or salvage, as opposed to the random factor of the Itsuki level 0. Additionally, I feel like this profile would be useful in a deck that doesn't have a lot of dig in the late game, but this deck's late game does have a lot of dig, with the Ichika being a top check 3 add 1 for each copy, and the Itsuki early play being a top check X. Another card you can consider trying out is the level 3 Ichika. She has on-play top check burn, and on attack if you have a full board, she can give plus 2500 power and plus 1 soul anywhere. It's a really nice combination with the Ichika finisher to boost her to 4 soul, so she's either dealing 4 with her attack or burning for 2 twice, similar to if the Ichika were direct attacking. If you want to include this Ichika in your deck, I would recommend taking out the one of Itsuki level 3. This concludes our deck profile for the Quintessential Quintuplets meta deck. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more upcoming Quints content. Coming up, we'll have some gameplay featuring not only this deck, but also some of the waifu decks we featured on our previous video, so look out for those. And until next time, this has been Shizukatz. See ya.